Okay, guys, big news this week that apparently has thrown the world into a tizzy.
Isn't it
like,
sad?
do you feel like the globe is off its axis somehow by this earth-shattering news?
Well, I think it's sad that of all the stuff, and we've dealt with some really big things like that should cause outrage, but this is the thing that does it. And I have to say,
not chemical weapons in Syria. It's Ben Affleck and Batman.
Yeah. I mean, Ben Affleck, this is the thing that really gets everyone off their rocker. And I mean, I want to talk about this because I don't even think this is of this particular story. This is not the worst news about this. I think there's something at the root of all this. There's even something more troubling. Because I don't think Ben Affleck as Batman, he's good or bad. It's just whatever. Kind of. It's like, okay, that's who you want. I don't have the same problems with people. One of my friends referred to him as a moron. And I'm like, if that guy's a moron, I wish I could direct 3 films that good.
We're not really talking about his directing ability here. We're talking about his acting ability, and I don't
have a problem with that either. I don't have a problem with that either.
I mean, let's face it. It wasn't his acting that made Argo great. If you thought Argo was great, he's gotten better over the years, no question about it. But at the beginning, for me, he was kind of a meatball, and I kind of didn't really like.
But he knew that. He knew that.
Doesn't matter.
No, but he knew that. But it's not. I'm not. Wait. No. But wait. Let me think. This is a guy who had enough sense about humility, who had a humility about him and said, "Yeah, Jiggly's awful." But he was in good films before that, and he was in good films after that. I will admit, that some of all fears, changing lanes. He admitted, oh my God, this. He admitted that his whole thing with J-Lo. This was a huge mistake on my part. I admire that. He has humility, but I don't think he's a moron. I don't even think he's a bad actor.
Well, I would never call him a moron. That's right.
No, that really got to me. But let's get to the bigger problem here. As soon as Warner Brothers said Batman will be in the next Superman film, you have to say, okay, so you have finally admitted that you guys don't know what to do with Superman. You have admitted that he is a boring character. You need to bring in another character. Because let's be honest, man. At the end,
interested, really.
Yeah. But let's even go into the bigger thing. Everyone, Nolan should come. No, Nolan should never make another comic book film again. Because if you bring Nolan into this, you are doing what I call a Joe Gibbs. You want Joe Gibbs to come back and coach for the Redskins because you think that's the golden period of the Redskins, and he did it, and it didn't work.
You can't reheat a souffle. You can't get the Beatles back together again, even if they were all alive.
Even if Christian Bale and Nolan came back to this, it would not work.
What would be the point of that?
I mean, you're already saying, first of all, I thought Batman would be on ice for at least 5 years. No, that's not going to happen. I thought we'd leave Batman alone, but I think this shows a desperation of Warner Brothers that you want to bring Batman back into this. I mean, it doesn't matter if you got Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I mean, he was smart. He knew I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. And supposedly there's a rumor that they offered Christian Bale $50 million. Is there any validity in this?
For Justice League or something. But here's what I think. This is what's curious to me. What's curious to me is not Warner Brothers choosing Ben Affleck to play Batman, because that seems like, okay, it's as good a choice as any for me personally. Yeah. What's curious to me is why Ben Affleck would choose to do Batman at this stage of his career, because
I don't get it.
He's worked so hard at career rehabilitation. He knew he had become somewhat of a laughingstock, and he worked so hard to, starting with Hollywoodland and his performance in that film, all the way to winning Best Picture last year. So doesn't Batman feel like a step down from that?
Oh, big time. I mean, that's what really, I thought it was like sort of like I had to check the calendar to see if it was April Fool's when I saw all this stuff.
Much less Zack Snyder's Batman. But here's what they said. Ben Affleck wanted to make sure that he was in on creating the character of Batman for the movie. So he and Zack Snyder are collaborating on building that character and making it unique. Batman in this movie is a much older, kind of worn down version of Batman. So, at the same time, I don't know the script, and neither do they. I think all they know at this point is the concept behind Batman. It could be a very well drawn, dramatic character the way they play it.
Right. But I have a question for you, just from a screenwriting, just from a narrative perspective. At the end of Man of Steel, I think the first half of Man of Steel is wonderful. I think the second half is downright dull. I think it's actually rather boring. But Superman is not really established as a world. He is still rather, how shall we say it, a fugitive, a refugee almost character. He is not. We don't in terms of this universe, this Superman. He is not a. How should I say it? He's not. He wouldn't be anybody's equal yet. We don't have any. I don't get a feeling of who Superman is by the end of this movie. And Batman is going to be this big, a war. I would imagine they're going to build on the events from the Nolan movies. I don't see how they can't, but it just doesn't feel, as far as in a screenwriting, in a narrative, it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't. It feels very jarring.
Yeah, I mean, is there a movie big enough for the two of them? I don't know, but maybe by deepening Batman's character within that framework, they hope to do the same with Superman's character in relation to him. The exciting casting news about it, and I guess this is legitimate, is that Bryan Cranston will be playing Lex Luthor.
That will definitely. I think you need to bring Lex Luthor into this at some point. So that will be. I agree. I think that's great. He is a perfect Lex Luthor.
And Affleck is wanting to. They are wanting Affleck to do multiple Batman movies or make multiple appearances as Batman. It's a beginning of a franchise with Affleck.
Right. I have to say something here. Warner Brothers and DC have not had the best of luck here outside of the Batman movies. Marvel's had a tremendous amount of luck with what they're doing with the Avengers and how they tied all those characters and separate movies into that. I see Warner Brothers having a lot more difficulty here with this Justice League movie. I just don't know how they're going to do it. I think Man of Steel is troubling because it reminds me so much of the Thor movie from a couple of years ago, and I actually think that's a better movie. Man of Steel your review was the first thing that I had read about the movie, and it was like a real wake-up call. It's like, oh, wow, this may not be the promised land, and it wasn't. So I think they're all on shaky ground. I think Ben Affleck could help it. I think he should actually go ahead and maybe direct one of these movies.
Yeah, and speaking of directing, I mean he's pushed off directing The Stand for one thing. Stephen King's The Stand is now going to Scott Cooper, who did Crazy Heart and the new Out of the Furnace movie. So maybe we'll start seeing some motion on The Stand now. But so Affleck has gone from winning for Argo last year to working with Fincher now, because he stars in the new Fincher movie, playing Batman, and I don't know when he's going to direct next. I think even the movie that he was going to do based on another Dennis Lehane novel, that's been pushed aside too, I think.
That's a shame. I do think him taking Batman is kind of a step down.
Because it seems contrary to the trajectory he's been chasing. Allows him an opportunity to grow. And I don't see that opportunity by playing Batman in a Zack Snyder movie.
No, I agree. I think it especially if you're going to go from, especially if he's working with Fincher, which is right there in education, and for him is definitely an education in extending his directing craft. I do think this is a massive step backwards. And to go back to the thing, a lot of people. He may be a very good Batman. Everyone was so quick to trounce on Heath Ledger and Tobey Maguire
and Michael Keaton.
Even Robert Downey Jr. and Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt. I think he would make a great Batman. It's just why? Why would you want to do this now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think they just picked him because he's perhaps the biggest star that's 40 years old now? I mean, is that really just
he has a solid relationship with Warner Brothers that they want to maintain.
I mean, you know, I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, you know, as far as you know, whether it fits into the trajectory of his career or not, I mean, it does feel like, you know, he's already hit the whole superhero thing once, and it didn't really work. So it does seem like, you know, you're going back to the trough in some ways, you know, and of course this will be a lot more successful than Daredevil, but
I don't know if Daredevil would have ever been successful with anyone, because I don't think it's a great movie, and if I hear one more person say, oh, you need to watch the director's cut, I really don't. I like Daredevil as a comic book character, but I just thought the movie, and just to prove my point about the movie, is that the spin-off with Jennifer Gardner, Elektra, another great character, was just as memorable. You know, so
first of all, could they have cast anyone in this that wouldn't have sent the world spinning off of its axis? I mean, probably not, except for I mean, even if they had cast Christian Bale in it, the world would have spun off of its axis, because people would have gone, oh, you know, they're going to pay him $50 million, and then, you know, that would have been a big deal. And these days, any announcement about the Batman franchise in whatever form it is going to, like, cause everybody to, like, really crap their pants. It just makes everybody nuts. Just like the mention of Star Wars. Any announcement about any making of Star Wars or anything.
Well,
these two franchises.